Picture this. You're in Jerusalem, sifting through layers of dust that have piled up over centuries. And as you brush away the grime, your trowel taps something that shouldn't be there. Out pops a coin. Not just any coin. A gold coin, thin as a wafer, stamped with the face of an Egyptian queen who once chopped off her own hair and tossed it into the sea. That queen is Berenice II, and her coin has absolutely no business turning up in a city that barely existed when it was minted. So how did it travel 300 miles from Alexandria to a parking lot in Jerusalem? And what's it doing telling us stories 2,200 years later? The site where this coin was found is no ordinary place. It's the Givati parking lot excavation, right beside the city of David. What looks today like cracked pavement has been, for over a decade, one of the richest archaeological digs in the region. Layer after layer, the soil reveals shards of pottery, charred walls, and echoes of empires. In the spring of 2025, a volunteer, not even a professional archaeologist, felt that unmistakable clink of gold. Out came a quarter drachma, lighter than a paperclip, yet 99.3% pure. Only about 20 of these coins exist worldwide, and never before had one turned up in a controlled excavation outside Egypt. The diggers froze. One of them later said the silence was so heavy you could hear your heartbeat. Think about it. Gold doesn't corrode. This coin looked nearly as brilliant as the day it was struck, more than 22 centuries ago. So who is this woman staring back at us? Her name was Berenice II. Born around 267 BCE in Cyrene, modern-day Libya, she became queen when she married Ptolemy III of Egypt. Her coin is extraordinary not just for its beauty, but for its message. The inscription calls her basilisks literally queen, right next to her veiled portrait. That might not sound radical today, but in the ancient world, women almost never had their names and faces minted on currency during their lifetimes. This was bold, political, and deliberate. Berenice wasn't a decorative consort. She ruled in Ptolemy's absence, held authority, and commanded respect. In fact, she is remembered most for a striking act of devotion. When her husband marched off to war, she vowed to cut off her famous auburn hair and dedicate it to the gods if he returned safely. He did. She did. The hair was placed in a temple, but by the next morning, it was gone. The priests were baffled. The poets spun a story. The gods had loved her gift so much, they took it to the heavens and transformed it into a constellation, Coma Berenices. Berenice's hair. Look up at the night sky, even today, and you'll find her shining among the stars. It's a poetic reminder that even in the darkest times, humans have always looked upward for meaning. But this discovery isn't just about Berenice, it's about Jerusalem. At the time this coin was minted around 246 BCE, Jerusalem was still recovering from its destruction by the Babylonians centuries earlier. Most historians assumed it was an isolated, modest city, a place with more goats than gold. And yet, here lies a coin, straight from Alexandria's mint, the very heart of the Ptolemaic Empire. The simplest answer: war. During the Third Syrian War, Ptolemy's armies clashed with the Seleucids, and Judea sat right between them. Soldiers marched, supplies flowed, and mercenaries were paid. Coins, especially gold ones, traveled far. Maybe a soldier dropped it in the chaos of the campaign. Maybe it was part of tribute or diplomatic payments. Or maybe it was carried by a wealthy trader. Proof that Jerusalem was not as cut off as we once believed. Now, Think about this for a moment. Imagine holding that coin in your hand. Back then, would you spend it on food and wine? Hide it in your home as savings? Or keep it as a treasure because it carried the face of a queen who ruled the mightiest empire of her age? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious what you'd have done. On the reverse of the coin sits a cornucopia overflowing with harvest flanked by twin stars, a symbol of prosperity, abundance, and divine blessing. The die work is so sharp, experts believe it must have left Alexandria's mint within a decade of its creation. Soil analysis places it in Jerusalem's late 3rd century BCE layers. And here's what makes it even more curious. It wasn't found in a hoard, a temple offering, or a royal palace. It was in an ordinary household layer, buried with common refuse, which means someone in Jerusalem once carried it, used it, maybe even lost it by accident. It's almost humbling, the most prestigious pocket change in the Mediterranean, slipped through someone's fingers, forgotten for 22 centuries. Up until now, scholars thought of Hellenistic Jerusalem as poor and provincial, its economy simple, its connections limited. But this coin forces a rewrite. It suggests trade links, military ties, or diplomatic channels with Egypt far stronger than we realized. Perhaps Jerusalem wasn't a forgotten hill town after all, but a crossroads with a richer story than we've given it credit for. History often shifts not with the discovery of monuments, but with something as small as a coin. The queen. After the coin. So what of Berenice herself? After her husband died, her son, Ptolemy IV, sidelined her. Like many queens of antiquity, her voice faded in the records. Over time, her identity blurred with other women named Berenice, until she became little more than a footnote. But this coin refuses to let her disappear. It's as if the gold itself insists, "Remember me." And now, 2,200 years later, a single coin in a Jerusalem dig has restored her legacy. Berenice II gave her hair to the gods. She gave her face to the mint. And, unknowingly, she gave her story back to us. One coin, lighter than a penny, just proved a forgotten queen had global reach, and a city thought provincial had ties to power. Somewhere under the dust of history, more treasures are waiting. More impossible finds that will rewrite what we think we know. And when they're uncovered, we'll be here to tell their tale.